showing you the many points of interest there in Barcelona, Spain. So stay with us, por favor.
On your mark. Set.
The Bud Summer Games. It could be the experience of a lifetime.
Not long ago at Subway headquarters, our founder, Fred, had a good idea. Why not take the best part of a chicken, that being the breast, cook it the best possible way, that being slow oven roasting, and serve it on the best bread around, that being Subway's fresh baked bread. The result, the new sliced roast chicken breast sandwich. A sandwich fit for a king. And since our chicken's 93% fat-free, it's fit for fit kings too.
For more information on the new sliced roast chicken breast sandwich, visit the Subway near you.
Diamond Crystal knows there's nothing like pure, clear water. That's why Diamond Crystal makes some of the most advanced water softener salts you can buy. Make your water special with Diamond Crystal.
A reminder from Walmart. No matter who you are, no matter what you drive, there's one sure way to get more out of it. Regular oil changes with quality Haviland motor oil. When you add Haviland, you add more life to your car. And with Walmart savings every day of the year, you're not only miles ahead, you're dollars ahead too. Saving money at Walmart. It's an idea that's really catching on. Walmart. Always the low price. Always.
Plastic bottles and bags in our waterways are more than a litter problem. They kill. Hi, I'm Gary Jobson, ESPN sailing analyst. Don't throw your trash overboard. Remember, you can make a world of difference.
19,000 wanted to go, but there's only room in the end for 15,609 Olympic athletes. I recently visited Barcelona, Spain, while preparing for ESPN's coverage of the Summer Olympic Games. What do you say if I take you now on a tour of this Olympic city? When this city was awarded the Games in 1986, it was already in the midst of a tremendous rebirth. Its goal? To once again capture Barcelona's standing as one of Europe's great cultural capitals, and to repair an inadequate infrastructure that was crumbling due to 36 years of neglect by the Franco regime. The Olympics are truly the crowning achievement in the total revitalization of Barcelona. The city contains 4 major Olympic sites that are within a 3-mile radius of each other. These 4, Montjuïc, Diagonal, Val d'Hebron, and the Olympic Village, are home to the majority of facilities and accommodations that will be used during the Games. All are reachable by public transportation and located theoretically within minutes of each other. It's all part of the plan to spread the wealth. The largest site in the hub of the Olympic Games is Montjuïc, site of the refurbished 70,000-seat Olympic Stadium. This hillside is also where you'll find the multi-purpose Palau San Jordi and the Olympic pools. To make it more reachable, Olympic planners built new, more accessible roads and installed a series of escalators to make the ascent on foot just a little bit easier. Northwest of Montjuïc is the Diagonal area, where the marquee event will be soccer. Existing facilities will be put to use here, including the stadium used by Barcelona's own championship soccer team. Val d'Hebron, in the northern reaches of the city, is where you'll find the newly renovated velodrome and the brand new tennis facility. This working-class neighborhood is a great example of the success of Barcelona's grand scheme, to use the Olympics as a means to improve the city's less fortunate areas and to highlight Barcelona's diverse communities. Val d'Hebron's new roads, new subway station, and new parks are all part of that plan. The Olympic Village in Parc de Mar is a city within the city. Not only will it supply housing and support services for the Games participants, it's also the site of the Olympic Marina, where the sailing competition will take place. More than 20 architectural firms were involved in this project, which called for the demolition of 200 acres of dilapidated industrial property along the ocean. After the Games, the village will be turned into a hotel and residential space, and the marina and 3 miles of new beaches will give Barcelona all the facilities of a modern resort. Some competitive venues are located outside the city and will require additional travel. The basketball venue, for example, is a short commute away in Barcelona, a hotbed of Spanish basketball. But basketball could prove to be one of the sore spots at these games, with an arena considered too small for the scope of this competition. Traffic in Barcelona is also expected to be much heavier than normal, and the prices much higher for just about everything. And while the lack of air conditioning might make things a bit uncomfortable, Barcelona should still be the hot place to be. All right, so let the games begin now. With that in mind, media critic Frank DeFore joins us again this morning. And the Olympics have become a media event, and sometimes, Frank, you have to admit, sometimes the media becomes bigger than the events themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it is amazing that in all the history of sport, the two dumbest mistakes were both made in 1992. Dan O'Brien goofing up the decathlon pole vault, and NBC thinking it could sell the Olympic triple cast. But the triple cast is spilt milk now, and NBC's next Olympic problem is that the first big star of the 1992 Summer Olympics will be. For most Americans, the Olympics are primarily a TV show. The demographics equate to prime time shows, not sports games, with, for example, a higher female viewer component. And just you watch. Come Tuesday or Wednesday next week, most folks around the water cooler will be judging Bob Costas' performance more than they will be talking about the games. This is what happened 4 years ago in Seoul, when America decided very quickly that Bryant Gumbel was too severe and not user-friendly. It's what happened this February past, when the first week's events at the Winter Olympics were virtually ignored, as everybody concentrated on how Paula Zahn and Tim McCarver interacted, and how they dressed, and even what the set looked like. Good grief, there was more interest in the CBS set than in the Alps. In television, life doesn't follow art. Life can be swallowed up by art, however, and we are absolutely host crazy in this country. That's why Ronald Reagan was such a good president. It wasn't that he'd been an actor, it's that he had been a television host. Remember? Costas has a tight-wire job. On the one hand, he must be good and popular. On the other hand, though, he can't keep the spotlight. That was Jim McKay's great strength. But McKay also had the advantage that he did the Olympics time after time. He was as familiar as the theme music in the rings. But Costas is new at it, and everybody will be comparing him to McKay and to Gumbel and to McCarver and Zahn. What ABC was so clever about was that it always managed to build up an attractive young star or two in the first days. Nadia Comaneci, Mark Spitz, Sugar Ray Leonard, Olga Korbut, Mary Lou Retton. This quickly took the emphasis away from McKay, away from the production. If you like the star performer, it's amazing how much you'll decide that you like the whole show. And let me tell you, if NBC made one mistake at Seoul, it was that it had this absolutely gorgeous hunk, Matt Biondi. He won 5 gold medals. He made hearts skip all over America, and NBC didn't know how to sell him. ABC would have, believe me. So if, say, next Thursday you're standing around that same water cooler and everybody is still talking about how Bob Costas is doing, and they're not talking about Biondi or Jenny Thompson or Kim Zmeskal or Summer Sanders, well then, NBC is in more trouble than just with his dumb triple cast.
But how do you really feel, Frank? Let's take, in defense of CBS, a lot of the premier events were in the second week. Tomba, Christy Yamaguchi, they were in this first week. Do you think maybe it would have changed a little bit?
I think the first thing CBS ought to do when it lays pressure on the IOC for 94 is say, hey, give us something good first, right out of the box. Let's have Tomba. Let's have Christy back. Brian Boitano may be skating. Put them first, and they'll be in a lot better shape.
Good right out of the box, of course, is Bob Costas. He has done it all in the sports world, but this has got to be his biggest assignment ever.
I am such a big fan of Bob, and I worked with him for 3 years on NFL football on NBC. I'm such a big fan of his. I'm sure he'll be fabulous. I have no doubts about that whatsoever. If anything, I guess maybe what I'm saying is maybe he's too good. He's going to be great.
Another great one that we lost this week was Buck Buchanan. I don't want you to get out of here before saying some words about him.
The good thing about Buck and I is that we met after his career was over, completely away from the football field. So there was no sports writer-athlete relationship. It was just two guys. And let me tell you, he was a terrific man. And goodbye, Buck. I'll miss you.
We all will. Yes. Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it, Frank.
Up next, the Major League season is far from over, and one man that is happy about that is Nolan Ryan, especially the way he's pitching again. The weekend baseball is next as Sunday Sports Day continues.
know how memory works.
I wonder how often I should save the pages I'm working on.
You'd like to know more about color graphics. You need to know how Windows work.
Are these windows going to change my original document?
You'd like to know the difference between personal computers. For everything you need to know and would like to know about computers, there's Understanding Computers from Time Life Books. Call now to examine your first book, Computer Basics, free for 10 days. Keep it and pay just $14.99. Then other books will follow. Cancel anytime. You'll learn the terms they don't explain in computer magazines or manuals to make learning about computers easy, even if you've never used one before. Whatever you need or would like to know, Understanding Computers begins with Time Life Books.
Call 1-800-435-1600 to examine Computer Basics. Keep it for $14.99 plus shipping and handling. Use your credit card today and get this calculator watch free. Return the book for a refund if not satisfied. Call 1-800-435-1600.
The race against time. 23 days of two-wheel torture. The Tour de France, the most challenging bicycle race in the world. A 2,000-mile race that can be won or lost in less than a second. The Challenge of the Alps continues in stage 14 of the Tour de France, Sunday on ESPN. In the race against time, every second counts.
For 10 years, I played basketball for the New York Knicks in this building. The guys on my team came from a variety of places, a variety of backgrounds. We respected each other, and we were winners. We gave up our own personal agendas so the team could succeed and win.
It's not odd at all to see Bill Bradley in Madison Square Garden. He's at home, whether he's in a Knicks uniform or addressing the Democratic Convention. Naturally, Tuesday's All-Star game grabbed most of the headlines this week in the major leagues, but we can't forget that the second half of the season got underway as well this week. Dan Patrick couldn't help but think of both in the MLB Week in Review.
The All-Star game is passed, and as always, there were All-Stars who weren't on the team. Nolan Ryan, certainly a legend, certainly a lock for the Hall of Fame, but he wasn't a certainty for the All-Star team due to his first-half performance. But on Thursday night, he did toss 7 innings of 2-hit ball against Baltimore, winning his 4th in a row, and in the process tying Phil Niekro for 12th on the all-time win list with 318. The next night, the next generation took the hill. The O's' Mike Mussina, who was an All-Star, blanked the Rangers on a one-hitter with 10 strikeouts. Doug Drabeck didn't make the All-Star team this year, but the former Cy Young Award winner stopped the Cubs with 8 innings of 3-hit ball Thursday night. The next night, All-Star Greg Maddux combined on a 6-hitter to answer back. Maddux can't afford not to be splendid. He rolled the dice and turned down a $28 million contract offer this week. All-Star John Smoltz was even better. He struck out 10 in 8 innings to lead the Braves to their 15th shutout of the season and 7th win in a row. Dwight Gooden, a perennial All-Star, but his first start of the second half typified the reason he missed this year's game. After giving up 4 runs in 3+ innings, he was forced to leave the game with soreness in his shoulder. The doctor will be forced to miss at least his next start. Ricky Henderson is a mainstay who missed this season's Midsummer Classic. The A's leadoff hitter returned from the disabled list in style with the 52nd time he has led off a game with a home run. Lance Parrish has been there before. He flashed his former greatness with 2 home runs on Friday night against the Jays. Teammate Ken Griffey Jr. continued his all-star style with 4 hits and a home run in the same game. The Cardinals' Tom Pagnozzi was an all-star catcher, and he survived an all-star collision with the Reds' Reggie Sanders. Sanders punctured his right lung and will be out for at least a month. And in that same game, former all-star Todd Worrell picked up his first save since August of '89. And finally, nobody will mistake Milwaukee's Jamie Navarro for an all-star, but you couldn't tell on Friday night. The Brewers' right-hander took a no-hitter into the 8th until another former all-star, Steve Sachs, came to the plate.
Navarro with his 1-2 pitch. Lined into left center field. There goes the no-hitter. There goes the lead. As coming in to score is Newson. Sachs going for 3 to throw. Too late.
Sometimes politics and sports can be a bad mix, especially when it leads to an Olympic boycott. But somehow, sports are able to touch people of all walks of life. Coming up on our Sunday conversation, the 37th President of the United States, Richard Nixon.
If I had a second chance and could choose to be a politician or go into sports writing, not playing, but writing, I would have taken writing. Writing, commentating, or whatever. Because I love the game, I love the competition, but the two are so closely related anyway. Politics is just a great sport.
This is stupid. Yeah, the only thing stupid was asking you, little brother, for help. It's never gonna fit. Well, if you push. Hey, watch the light! Mom's gonna kill you. Me? Yeah. Break. Break.
Lipton iced tea mixes, now in 5 delicious fruit flavors.
Hey, this one's new. Citrus tea. Raspberry. Citrus! Citrus.
Refresh yourself with Lipton fruit-flavored iced teas.
So what do we do about the couch? What couch?
Here's another great reason to switch to Pizza Hut delivery. Free pie in July.
Free pie in July. Free pie in July.
Get a free medium single topping pizza when you buy a large pepperoni lovers, meat lovers, or supreme pizza at regular price.
Free pie in July.
Free pie in July. So make the switch to Pizza Hut. It's gonna be a great summer.
Free pie in July at Pizza Hut.
Let us hope that not only can our next president be a left-hander, that's a given, that he will not be wild, but that he can hit home runs for America the way Babe Ruth hit them for the New York Yankees. Thank you.
Richard Nixon has made no secret of his passion for baseball over the years. Back in 1972, President Nixon and his son-in-law, David Eisenhower, picked their baseball all-star team. This week, they updated their selections. It's fascinating to hear President Nixon talk about America's favorite pastime, and that's exactly what he did with Roy Firestone for our Sunday.
Second chance and could choose to be a politician or go into sports writing, not playing, but writing, I would have taken writing. Writing, commentating, or whatever. Because I love the game, I love the competition, but the two are so closely related anyway. Politics is just a great sport when you really put it in its lowest common denominator.
You were one of the first people, Mr. President, I think you were the first, to institute the Rose Garden celebration for the athletes. Has it gotten out of hand? Is it too much a political tool now? I mean, you had a great love for the game. Has it become too much of a PR photo opportunity?
I think players, whether it's baseball or basketball or football or whatever, that they like to come to the White House. I think they should be honored. Now, some presidents maybe are not that interested in the sport, but if they want to use the prestige of the office to honor those who win playing a good, clean sport, I think it's good for the country. To me, it was just a thrill to have any of them there. I remember when I had some of the Oakland A's there, I remember meeting Reggie Jackson on that occasion and others, and I must say, I asked for his autograph. He didn't want mine.
For a man who followed baseball all of these years, how do you think money has adversely, if in any way, affected the game?
I know there are those that say that because a player gets a lot of money and a long-term contract, that then the incentive for playing well is destroyed. They say that about Bobby Bonilla, for example. I don't think that's why Bonilla's in a slump. He's just trying too hard here in New York, in the Big Apple. I think he's going to come back. So I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that these huge contracts may drive some of the weaker clubs that don't have the big television audiences right out of business. And that would be very unfortunate. I think there has to be a cap on these salaries. But unless there's some sort of a cap on it, we are going to destroy the game, and we're just going to have a few of the big markets be able to afford the teams, and the others are going to be also run.
Fay Vincent, in or out, do you think, as commissioner, ultimately?
I sympathize with him. He's had to make tough decisions. He's stepped up to them. My guess is that he's probably made good decisions. My view is that he's controversial, but so is Judge Landis controversial. But he seems to be a tough, strong guy. Unflappable. I saw him interviewed at the All-Star game. I believe baseball would make a mistake to throw him out, because then they'll get in some namby-pamby guy that's going to try to satisfy the owners all the time. You don't want somebody like that. You want an independent guy like Vincent.
Pete Rose, should he or should he not be allowed back into baseball?
I know it's controversial, but so am I. But I would say that I feel very strongly he should be taken into the Hall of Fame. You can't have the Hall of Fame that is complete without Pete Rose. And if you're going to have the standard of gambling, then you've got to take a look at some of the players of the past. Ty Cobb, for example, was notorious for his gambling. The difficulty is, of course, is that Pete did gamble on baseball, but I've seen him play, and there's no question. He always played to win. Now, he's paid a price. I think the time has come for him to be brought into the Hall of Fame, and with a warning to other players, look, don't do it, because you're going to have to be out of baseball for a long time.
What can you say about forgiveness on the part of the public in terms of how they look upon some of these fallen heroes?
Well, I think the American people are a very fair people. They understand that sometimes there are those who will not meet the standards that they feel are proper. The Mike Tyson case has got to be very puzzling, and it must be that he just doesn't understand what the mores are. As we know, some of these great heavyweight fighters and so forth were not angels. We know that was the case with a number of them. Take the case of baseball. Babe Ruth was quite a swinger, yes, he was. But he was a great, great player. There comes a point, though, where there's a line you can't cross, because if you do cross that line, as in the case of rape and so forth, then the example to young people who really admire their sports heroes, then that's going to be the wrong lesson to them.
Luis Aparicio. He was in the midst of an 0 for 44 slump, and you took the time to write him a letter, and I think he appreciated the compassion.
But what I do, and having lost sometimes as well as won sometimes, I always write the losers. Because I know that when you win, you hear from everybody. When you lose, you hear from your friends. I didn't know Luis Aparicio well, but I met him. And when he went through that horrible slump, I knew it was killing him inside. And when he finally got a hit, I thought, well, this is a time he deserves a letter. It's not something, incidentally, that should be done, however, for publicity. I didn't do that for publicity, and it's here in the library because it happens to be in the archives. But on the other hand, I enjoy the opportunity to write people who've fallen on hard times, to give them encouragement, to point out that in my case, I've been through some rough times, but you survive, and that's the main thing.
And knowing Dick Schaap, I bet he talked baseball with the president. Is that right, Dick?
Well, I have a lot of memories of the president and baseball. I remember back in 1968, I covered his campaign in Oregon, and the first time I met him, he phrased everything to me in sports terms so that I would be able to understand it. A few years later, I had a show on NBC, and he came on as a baseball trivia expert, competing against Frank Mankiewicz, the Democratic representative, and both of them were terrific. They really knew baseball. Mr. Nixon is wrong on one thing, or he was not the person who originated bringing athletes to the White House, maybe to the Rose Garden, but the University of Washington football team back in the late 20s or early 30s when they won the national championship, they were invited to the White House when Mel Hine was on that team. One last little White House Nixon story. When an All-Star game was played in Washington, I believe it was, they invited the All-Star teams to the White House, and Nixon asked Gaylord Perry how to throw the spitter. I think he just wanted it informationally, not to use it himself.
I can see Richard Nixon there beside Bill Conlon and Mike Lupica there on the Sports Reporter, since he wants to be a sports writer. Maybe we can make an exception and invite him on the show.
I think we should have him on. I think he qualifies, and I think that even Conlon might be deferential.
Even so. Dick and I will be right back with a final thought or two on the week before we turn you over to the sports reporters. But first, have a look at who's hurting this week.
Cool, crisp, clean. Old Spice. It puts the wind in your sails.
buy bird box, and I used a little paper, and I put some moss around the entrance. I made a bird box, and I put a little perch on there, and on the bottom it says, wipe your feet.
These take-home nests were paid for by Phillips Petroleum.
I'm expecting doves, blue jays, and robins. I'm expecting one of those yellow and black birds.
An investment that comes with its obvious rewards.
Can Alan Kulwicki do it twice in 1 year in the Poconos? He's shooting for his second consecutive win at the Pocono International Raceway, NASCAR's most competitive super speedway. The Pocono 500, Sunday, live on ESPN.
Sports Weekly is brought to you by Phillips Petroleum, the performance company. By Old Spice, cool, crisp, and clean. It puts the wind in your sails. And by refreshing Lipton iced tea. Share the experience.
Thanks for staying with us, everyone. Earlier, we looked back on Buck Buchanan's career. It's easy to see why he was inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame 2 years ago. He earned the respect of the Packers back in '67, didn't he, Dick?
Well, Robin, some of the Green Bay Packers actually laughed when they watched films of the Kansas City Chiefs before Super Bowl I. When they saw two Kansas City defensive backs collide, they cracked up. It looks like Looney Tunes and Merry Melody, said the Packers' Max McGee. But Fuzzy Thurston didn't laugh. I was scared, Fuzzy said. I had to play Buck Buchanan. And he was about 6'8", about 285, and I wasn't laughing. Buck Buchanan of the Kansas City Chiefs was some football player and some man. And when he died this week at the age of 51, after a 2-year fight against cancer, nobody laughed, and a lot of people cried. Robin.
His college coach, Eddie Robinson, said that Buchanan was the best he's ever seen, and Eddie Robinson's seen some of the great ones over the years there at Grambling.
He had a lot of beautiful players.
Well, keep in mind that I'll rejoin Dick in 30 minutes with the Sunday morning edition of Sports Center right after the Sports Reporters, which is next, as Sunday Sports Day rolls on. We'll see you again in half an hour.